Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. Do you like a good fight? Stand by. Andy's got the rundown.
Sam, public employees at the legislature. Today we have attorneys and pundits to discuss separation of powers and double dipping. Sam?
Andy, we've got so many pundits coming up on this program. They're coming out of our ears. It's all coming up next on the all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Charter Communication.
The Abowed family has an appetite for dialogue. Agree or disagree, have the conversation. All opinions are welcome. Since 1977, Adele's.
Catch a straight, dine at 8. Lucky you. Lucky you. Dance till 1. Have some fun. Lucky you. Lucky you. Taste the shrimp. Have a sip. Try the pool. Play it cool. At the Sienna Hotel Spa Casino. Lucky you.
The biggest risk your company can take.
Well, Barbara, you did very well on your interview.
Hiring employees can help your business get to the next level.
And your resume looks outstanding.
And it can also expose you to corporate crimes and costly lawsuits that can bring your company to its knees.
So, we'd like to offer you a position.
Before you hire another employee, hire the professionals at Employer Links. Call today to get our free CD-ROM, The Top 8 Risk of Hiring Employees.
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years. Call 882-1700 to see what we can do for your organization.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad, political analyst Ande Engleman on No Holds Barred Political Forum. Now, from the News 4 Broadcast Center, here's Sam Shad.
No Holds Barred is exactly what today's show is all about. Chris Wicker is here. He's an attorney and chairman of the Washoe Democratic Party. And Bill Bilyeu is an attorney and former Republican Assembly Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Let's start off real quick. Everybody has in front of you the language of the initiative petition that is being, people are being asked to sign right now, dealing with public employees holding office. This initiative petition, if passed, would not keep anyone from running for office. Is that correct?
No, it would not. Well, it would keep a lot of people from running for the legislature.
No, it doesn't say they can't run for office, does it?
No, it doesn't say they can't run, but basically what it does say is they can't hold both offices.
All right, so that means that if they run for office and get elected, they would have to resign either from the legislature or resign their full-time public employee job.
That's correct. It's really just very comprehensive. It covers every single public employee except federal employees. You can't hold elective office.
Well, federal employees already can't hold elective office, right?
Right, under the Hatch Act.
So we're not banning one particular group from the legislature alone. I mean, there's already groups that can't serve in the legislature.
No, we're talking about an extremely large group trying to ban them from a citizen legislature, which is quite different than banning them from a fairly well-paid federal legislature.
Well, and a large group presently, which was not a large group historically in the legislature until after, I think, Bob List's opinion basically saying that, well, public employees can run for office.
Right, that was in 1971.
Right.
And Bob List, in an interview last week, said that this was not what he envisioned, though. He never pictured so many public employees being in office.
I'm
I'm sorry, List can't envision that.
I'm going to pass up the whole thing.
All right, well, gentlemen, let's find out. What do you think? I mean, let's start out with you, Bill. I mean, does this make sense to you?
And what about separation of powers?
Well, Article 3, Section 1 of our state constitution, not unlike our federal constitution, provides for a separation of powers, which basically says we have a legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government, and that provides checks and balances one on the others so that one does not become all-powerful. The rationale being that you can't have people acting in more than one capacity, because that then provides a concentration of powers which upsets the check and balances. Article 3, Section 1 of the Nevada Constitution prima facie would indicate that no, you cannot be a member of one branch of government and then hold office in another branch of government. However, there will be constitutional attacks to that, equal protection, all sorts of things like that. Or does it really mean what it says? And given our present makeup of the court, who knows?
Chris, why do we have separation of powers?
Well, first of all, I think I need to disagree with a little bit of what Bill said, is that I think the Constitution prohibits the same person exercising the powers of the legislative and the judicial or the executive branch. And that's the key phrase, I think. So if you have a school teacher, number one, it doesn't apply except to state government employees, because the separation of powers talks about the government of the state of Nevada. Number two, let's say that you have a probation officer. Are you really going to say they're exercising the powers of the executive branch? That's an interpretation the courts will make, and I think the fact they're doing a constitutional initiative is an admission that it's permitted under the current Constitution. And now, sorry, Andy, I forgot your question.
and Chris is correct in that sense, is that that's what the arguments are going to be. Obviously, if you are a janitor who works for the local school district, do you really exercise any powers of ostensibly the executive branch? It's going to be the arguments are going to be on gradation. Obviously, they're clear. No, if you're a sitting judge, no, you can't run for the legislature. Nobody's going to argue that one.
Okay, but if you're getting paid from both.
Well, that brings up another issue.
Well, I think
that's double dipping.
No, it's not double dipping. Double dipping is if you're getting paid twice for doing the same job. What we're talking about in the legislature, you're getting paid for being a legislator and you're getting paid for being a public employee.
But then you are acting in both branches of government at the same time.
You're not exercising the powers. You're exercising the powers in the legislative branch. I don't think you're exercising the powers of the executive branch unless you're the attorney general, the governor, or some position that can reasonably be said to exercise the powers.
What about the second highest person in the Henderson Police Department, who's supervising other policemen?
I don't even think the chief of police of the Henderson Police Department, maybe the mayor of Henderson, but I'm not even sure about that.
You're shaking your head no.
I think that's nonsense. I mean, not to put it in non-legal terms. Excuse me. Yeah, it's no. It's basically you're still a state employee, so you are receiving pay for two state functions at the same time. That's double dipping.
We already have a law that says if you're a state employee, you cannot serve in the legislature at the same time. And so we had Ron Connect, who took a leave of absence from his state job. In the past, Frankie Sue made state employees quit their position if they were Republicans. She didn't do that with Democrats, but
I'll let that one pass.
Yeah, right. So why do we need separation of powers? Just briefly, we're just about out of time.
The reason you need separation of powers, and the overall, our whole government is based, like Bill was saying, on checks and balances, that you have three branches of government that essentially keep in check the other branches of government.
Okay, Bill, the last word.
Well, one of the main reasons, in addition to that, is the ethics that are involved. How can you, say, be a member of a branch of government then voting on things that directly affect you?
Okay, gentlemen, we got to leave it there. We'll come right back. We're going to continue this discussion throughout the show. Things will heat up in about 2 minutes. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Terry.
And this is Dan's Pizza and Parlor. Everything we make here is from scratch. Our fresh cut fries, homemade hamburgers made to order, fresh pizza dough made with 3 types of flour, and Terry's secret pizza sauce. and Dreyer's world-famous ice cream. And if you have a sports team, your kids can really have a great time here. Oh! Dan's Pizza and Parlor on Victorian Avenue, just down the street from Great Basin Brewery next to Pyramid Highway.
Would you like to savor a Trento pork chop? Or maybe pasta rags with grilled chicken? Hugo's Tuscan Grill at D'Andrea is a celebration of color, flavor, and freshness. Each dish is created from natural, wholesome foods that is delicious and nutritious. Hugo's is a comfortable restaurant with breathtaking city views. If you enjoy great food and good company, visit us here at Hugo's. It's the best that dining can be. 2900 South D'Andrea Parkway in Sparks.
Welcome to Sushi Club, best sushi in town. The Sushi Club in Independence Square uses the best quality products. The sushi is dynamite, and the service is just wonderful.
The Sushi Club is bigger and better. We have 11 sushi chefs on staff, and the service is great.
All your friends will tell you that Sushi Club is the best place for the best sushi.
Come join us for lunch or dinner.
The Sushi Club, 294 East Moana Lane in the Independence Square.
Now that's great sushi.
To experience the royal cuisine of India, you need some serious magic or simply transport yourself to India Garden, right here in Reno, where you'll discover Indian specialties refined over centuries. Sikh kebab, tandoori dishes cooked in our own tandoor oven, biryani specialties, curries, fresh-baked Indian bread, over a dozen vegetarian dishes, even dishes rare to India like dosa, South Indian-style crepes. India Garden off South Virginia near Sports West. We are India.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
Okay, on our first pundit panel today, we have two current public employees and one former public employee.
Right.
We welcome to the program John Gwaltney, who's a school board member, and then Scott Craigie, who's president of Alrus Consulting, and Washoe County DA Dick Gammick. Welcome all.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, the Constitution's pretty clear about separation of powers. But I think all of you disagree with me. Go at it.
Separation of powers is a big concept. That talks about the three branches of government and how they should be separated from each other. It doesn't get down to the end of, it doesn't get down to the individuals. And when you are elected to the legislature, your loyalty is to that legislature. You are a part of the legislative body. You heard me say, 63 people comprise that legislature.
Okay,
and
but
so
how can you be paid? How can you
be
paid for your other job while you're serving at the legislature?
You know, during this whole thing, we've had these discussions. I haven't heard you yell once about law firms paying their lawyers to go down there and sit in the legislature. So I'm kind of lost.
That's private
people.
Sector. That's a whole different thing.
So double dipping is okay for some people, but not a good idea for other people.
Well, why should taxpayers be paying one person to do two jobs?
They should.
Well, I totally agree with you that if you're getting paid twice to do the same job, then certainly you are double dipping and it's wrong. I think certainly we should strengthen the ethics rules in this state. I have some concerns about those and have had for a long time. But to disenfranchise a substantial portion of the population and say you can't serve in the legislature, even though the voters might want them, strikes me as a mistake. So I'd like to see the ethics change.
Well, and the other thing too is, and you brought this up the other day, which is if people have to quit their jobs, even now, I mean, there are great financial stresses on people who serve in the legislature.
And there are people who lost their jobs in the private sector.
That's right.
A very good example. Would the citizens of this state stand for raising the salary that people get in the legislature to a living wage? Right now, it is abominably low.
And they won't.
Oh, I disagree with you. I think if people knew that that's the only pay you were getting and that you were not lining your pockets from someplace else, yes, I believe they would go for higher pay.
I disagree, but I want to get to the heart of the issue. And I view the heart of the issue, who you disenfranchise, and thank you for bringing that up. The people that you disenfranchise, just as examples, are the 625 Nevada Guardsmen who are in Iraq today. And when they come back, if they want to keep that work in the Guard, you're going to tell them, you can't run for the legislature. If you look at the Reno Gazette Journal.
No, come on. Now stop saying that, Scott. That's not true. They can run for the legislature.
They can run, but they have to give up their whole life in order to serve.
What forbids them from, all right,
This is the man I want to talk about. This guy who is standing face to face with fires is the guy that you say, I'm going to disenfranchise. You can fight in Iraq. You can fight these fires. You can save the Tahoe Basin. But by golly, you had best not come back here and want to run
Oh, yes,
for the
you can
legislature
run
unless
for the
you're willing to
legislature.
give up this job.
And what's
That's
to prevent him?
outrageous.
What's to prevent him from giving up his job for 4 months and then going back to
You know,
it?
double dipping I have no problem with, but you're not asking them
You don't
to
have
just...
a problem with people double dipping?
I have a problem with double dipping. That is an issue that needs to be dealt with. Deal with this surgically, not wholesale. That person shouldn't be required, though, to resign from their job if they take a total leave of absence with no benefits paid. I have no problem with them serving in the legislature and starting again. Don't ask them to lose their seniority. Don't ask them to lose their role. Go ahead.
I agree with Scott. Yeah.
He's making all kinds of sense. You understand that you can't stop out of many careers. Education, for example, if you're teaching in a public school, you can't totally resign. You can take a leave of absence, you can refuse pay. And frankly, I think there's a strong feeling that people who took more money from two different sources ought to be accountable to the voters this time around. I think it's a long, strong feeling for that.
Well, I think they ought to be accountable to their bosses, too. We got to get supervision into this. If a person works it out where they're working weekends and nights, and when they're not in the legislature to take care of jobs they're supposed to be doing there, why shouldn't they be compensated for that? We're going to have to realize something in this state. We're going to have to pay people what they're worth to sit at that legislature. And until we do it, this issue's going to be there.
But Dick, part of the problem is, and there have been some very nice legislators, people I really like, who have admitted to me that their bosses do make requests of them to do legislative things
And
while
that's
they're
wrong.
there.
Yes. Everybody here agrees. That's wrong.
Okay,
You can't do both
but
jobs
it
at the same
happens.
time.
But
It happens
bosses
in the
don't
private sector,
realize
too.
it,
Yep.
and that's wrong.
Still wrong, too.
And that's wrong.
Yep.
Right. I agree with you. I talked to Speaker Perkins, and I said, why don't you keep public employees off the Government Affairs Committee? Because all they do is rubber stamp what other governments want. And why don't you put public employees on the Commerce Committee instead of having so many business people? And he would not go for it.
But to take a wholesale approach and get rid of all public employees, or they have to quit their jobs, is wrong.
Scott, what
just
percentage
outrageous.
of the population are public employees?
No, I don't know the answer to that. And
16%.
16%, and that's a good question. But I want to go to this issue of division of powers of the legislature too.
25% serve in the
There's one legislator, John Oseguera, who's a good example here. John Oseguera is a fireman. He's two-term legislator. The story that I like the best about John Oseguera was he was one of the first firemen, I believe the first, on the scene in that airplane accident where Bob Seale's wife was
He's
killed.
a wonderful person, and I'll grant you that,
Just let me just go
Scott.
through this real quickly.
No, I know what
finish.
he's doing.
This is what he did. He was one of the people who lifted Sue Wagner out of that plane, put her on the flight for life, very competently done. What executive branch service was he didn't appropriate funds, he didn't appropriate resources.
He voted for
served.
higher taxes.
He would have to choose between that job and serving in the legislature.
What Scott is trying
That's
to say,
wrong.
what all of these guys I think are
understand.
trying to say is that you can't just cut everybody out.
Nobody's saying
because-
to cut them out. We're out of time.
We're not out of time. We've got another panel coming up. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers.
Before you head to Carson, take care of yourself with a visit to Tamarack Junction. Catch a hot cup of coffee and the morning news on one of our 32 TVs and enjoy the best food in South Reno. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
The Abowed family has an appetite for dialogue. Agree or disagree, have the conversation. All opinions are welcome. Since 1977, Adele's.
Your home is an expression of all things comforting and familiar. For custom storage, you can count on California Closets to provide quality, value, and design integrity. The process is easy, combining your personal style with our organizing expertise. We care about what matters most to you, making your home functional and beautiful. California Closets, simplifying home and life since 1978. Call today for your complimentary design consultation.
When you sign up for Wells Fargo free checking, you get more than free checking. You get the freedom to bank when and where you want. Wells Fargo, the next stage.
Make your daily commute easy with breakfast or lunch at the Tamarack Junction. Enjoy daily specials, super fast service, and South Reno's freshest morning meals. Tamarack Junction, your junction for fun. South Virginia and Amati Ranch Parkway.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad and Ande Engleman.
And welcome back to the Monday Fights here on Nevada Newsmakers. Our next pundit panel here, we have Pat Coward, who is with Carrara, Nevada, Bob Crowell, who is an attorney, and Daryl Capurro, who is the executive director of the Nevada Motor Transport Association. Let's start out with you, Ande. Legislative session runs 120 days. They get paid for 60 days. Boom, right there. Big financial hit.
They're still getting $85 a day, and that's 7 days a week.
That's the per diem.
$85
boy,
plus travel, whether
really,
they use it or not.
Oh,
that's
boy,
not
they're
much
just
money
going
at all.
Ande, they are just going to retire on that money.
Yeah.
They're going to be having an offshore account in the Bahamas.
Why do you ask me a question and then you never give me a chance to?
Please, go ahead.
I want to first ask Daryl how he feels
so you
about
use it as a device.
That's right.
Actually, it's a good point, though, in both ways, because the legislative session is 120 days, calendar days long. They are paid for the first 60 calendar days, which means that within that first 2 months, they don't have any weekends off. They are paid whether they adjourn or suspend operations over the weekend.
So every time they take off on Fridays and fly to Las Vegas for the weekend, they're still getting legislative pay.
That's correct, and the per diem. Now, it is a travesty that we have a situation in which we have a 120-day session by the Constitution, and they're paid for 60. That is ridiculous. We've had several blue ribbon panels that have said that the pay should be raised. In fact, I was on the last blue ribbon panel. We came up with a recommendation for a $24,000 a year pay, and the Common Cause even supported that.
Daryl, don't you think that if the public knew that they were doing legislative business for 120 days, they would agree that they should be paid for 120 days?
I'm not sure that I share your enthusiasm for that. I'm not sure they would, because you have too many people saying, well, they knew what the job paid when they took it. But it's ridiculous to be paid $7,800 in the year in which they're in session, because there's no one who can live on that pay.
And I will tell you, the W-2s at the end of the year show most of them make a minimum of $14,000, which is not a ton of money. But
well, you know, one of the things you have to look at, too, that a lot of people don't realize, that 120 days is not the only obligation they have to the general public. They're elected for a 2-year period of time. You have interim assignments that legislators sit on. They have contacts from their constituents that they're working on. So it's just not the 120 days.
Okay, let's clarify that when they come up here for those committee meetings, they do get paid, they get travel, they get per diem.
Yeah, but still, there's an awful lot of contacts they have with the general public.
And they don't
about
have to accept those interim assignments.
No, they don't.
They do, but the fundamental issue, what I think what you're talking about in this panel, is whether or not public employees should be able to serve in the legislature. And I, for one, personally believe that the success of our democratic society depends on the enfranchisement as opposed to the disenfranchisement of our population. And I think that we need to do things to encourage people to participate in the political process. We cannot go through this world and have our society be fostered when our voting records are 30%, our voting turnout is 30%. We cannot do it when we are deliberately trying to take out a segment of population from serving and exercising their right to participate.
But we
in
already
democracy.
keep federal employees from serving.
I understand you keep federal employees from serving, but you know, you'd had a discussion about Article 3, Section 1 of the Nevada Constitution. You know, that very clearly to me says that you're not going to have a policymaker in the legislative branch be a policymaker in the executive branch or in the judicial
And all
branch.
legislators are policymakers.
Yeah, you know, one thing, Andy, that you're forgetting about Nevada, Nevada is great because we have a citizen legislature.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you, you're going to be destroying that citizen legislature. I'm not saying there's abuses take place. There are. And I think we need to take care of those. I think there's ways of doing that without disenfranchising a whole group of people.
But the legislative leadership doesn't believe in doing that.
I don't know.
They want to keep things the way they are. When I talked to Speaker Perkins on the air.
Well, I think what was mentioned at one time that in the private sector, and I know the mention of attorneys was made, and I'm not so sure we need as many attorneys as we have in the legislature.
We only have 2.
Well, yeah, in fact, that may be too many.
But how many attorneys are in the legislature? What, 4?
2. I think 2.
But my point to that is that there were at least 2
people that served in the private sector in the legislature who basically lost their job.
That's right.
Because their employers could not afford to let them off 4 months, and it ended up being 6 months with the special sessions.
Whereas the public
to be able to run their
sector-
business.
But also, don't we have the public here, the voters, don't they get the chance that if they see a problem with their elected officials, that they can vote them out?
But most of them don't know that they're getting paid by their public employer at the same time they're serving
it's
at
certainly
the
become an
legislature.
issue now, and it's certainly an issue that's not going to go away.
But
not
they,
gonna go away.
But they
Yeah.
didn't know. And all right, quickly, double dipping.
Wrong.
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 Oh, well.
I don't think you get any disagreement out of that, but the reality is that some people actually really do additional work beyond the legislature during the legislative session. And if they do so,
they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be doing
There's a
legislative
tremendous
business.
What is the perception? And I think that's where you're going to run into all kinds of problems. How does the voter look at that individual that's doing that? I wouldn't want to do that.
So you wouldn't go with the 10 hours a week of being able to work? No.
No.
No, everybody's saying no. Okay, I'm not going to argue. Good show, huh? We'll be right back.
Lori Ann and the staff of St. Ives Florist invite you to a very special occasion. On Saturday, November 15th, you won't want to miss our 12th annual holiday open house and design preview from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The St. Ives family would love to share our magical wonderland with you and your family. St. Ives Florist, simply the finest, hopes your holidays are simply the warmest.
And I look forward to seeing you Saturday, November 15th at our holiday open house.
Atlantis is cooking up a party. It's every diner's paradise. Toucan Charlie's Buffet and Grill, voted Reno's best buffet by locals year after year. Experience the Mongolian barbecue, new Asian station, and sumptuous exhibition stations filled with fresh entrees, salads, and desserts. Try the Friday night seafood buffet and Sunday champagne brunch. Atlantis.
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Terry.
And this is Dan's Pizza and Parlor. Everything we make here is from scratch. Our fresh cut fries, homemade hamburgers made to order, fresh pizza dough made with 3 types of flour, and Terry's secret pizza sauce, and Dreyer's world famous ice cream. And if you have a sports team, your kids can really have a great time here. Oh! Dan's Pizza and Parlor on Victorian Avenue, just down the street from Great Basin Brewery next to Pyramid Highway.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Charter Communication.
Andy, I think in a perfect world, everything you're saying would be absolutely right on. But sometimes you have to deal with reality, and in the citizen legislature, things are not always the way you want it.
I wouldn't be disturbed if they would actually institute some laws, not rules that can be suspended, and actually do something about cleaning up the ethics, but they don't. And if you like today's show, don't miss tomorrow's.
We'll see ya.